Welcome back to another video on Gearsaw Studios. And today I'm going to be showing you how to build an ocean base. In case you ever need a break from your mundane day job, just endlessly working away at a laptop, you might want a nice break. So, before I begin, remember, please like and subscribe, and without further ado, onto the tutorial. Off to the ocean, and I'd recommend finding a warm or lukewarm ocean. Normal and cold oceans will do, frozen oceans will not. Then, we want to be using sea lanterns and dark prismarine for the underwater parts. Then, we have cyan terracotta and smooth quartz for the above ground, with birch planks for the flooring. Then, find yourself a nice area in the ocean, preferably far from coast, but of course not too far in case you ever need something from the mainland. Then you want to go down and make a 3x3 square. The outside. Like this. And we can see this is just a simple square. And we want to tower up like this on the corners. Once you reach surface, that's all you need to do for now. Because we can place blocks on more cyan terracotta, and we can start doing real things. The pillars are now in, and with these pillars, we can now start bridging off of them. Start by going maybe 10, 11, if not more blocks in one direction, and, you count the number of blocks. That's 10, and then you do it on all sides like this. Simple, and you turn those into squares. I'd recommend taking off the inside corners just for additional aesthetic effect. Also, while you're at it, you might want to go down under the water and place down a conduit. This is why we have the dark prismarine. We can take out these corner blocks that nobody will see, place the conduit in the middle, and now water breathing. It will allow you to build the underwater portions with ease. Now, we have 4 squares here. I rounded some of the edges and then put the rest of the square in. That might be useful later. You don't have to do that for now. What you want to do is fill this place up with some dark prismarine for flooring, or smooth quartz. Either one works. Although, one's more expensive than the other depending on your situation. So, it might just be down to personal preference for there. Either way, you want to have flooring, and then on one part, you need to have 2 staircases converging together. Because if we have 2 staircases going together, then we can go into the second floor where most of our stuff's going to be, while all of our storage and the less pretty stuff will go over by the conduit. If you don't have a conduit, then for the second floor, disregard everything I say for flooring and just make it barrels. Now, I've worked a little on the staircase, and we can see the rough pattern I'm going for. Although I had to add gray concrete to the palette, really couldn't make it work with just cyan terracotta. But either way, you want to have gray concrete going around the top, and whenever it reaches these little waterways, so that way you can sail through the middle of the base, you want it to go upward and 2 blocks thick at that. Because if it's 2 blocks thick, 1, it looks better, and 2, provides a little bit more framing. And although that's not 100% necessary, we're in a block game where we can have floating islands, still, it looks better, and it's more realistic. You just want to create these, hook them around the top, so that way you have like a rounded corner, and then you want to mirror whatever you have here on all 4 sides. Now, we have ourselves one side that's starting to get close to completion, and we're getting a general gist to how this will look. Although, once this is done, you'll have seen from the intro and the thumbnail what this looks like. Still, you can see it's going to have a relatively modern look. And also, although most of the cyan terracotta actually works better if it were instead to be gray concrete, still, even though I've made a mistake, still, mistakes are quite a nice opportunity to see what does work, and we can see having a little outline here does look better. So don't be afraid to make mistakes from time to time, even if it wastes a little bit of time, because, sometimes it makes your build better. We have some mirrored corners, giant windows, some staircases going up and converging, just a little closer look at them, and otherwise, there really isn't anything going on as of now. So, let's make some stuff going on. What you want is your cyan terracotta again, and smooth quartz. All your ceilings should be smooth quartz, all the floors should be birch, and up here, you just want to make floors. Nothing too fascinating about this, besides in the middle, try adding a window that is roughly the same shape of the hole we have here. Also, make sure that your boats don't sink if you excessively play around with structure blocks to minimize work. Otherwise, nothing really going on here, and that's completely fine. Now, working on the interior, I made sure that the walls were indented a little bit on the inside. You can see half of them are like this. Just to give an example, I'm going to make one of these have the cyan bottom. We can compare the outside. Yes, I know it's looking a little flat, but you can see it looks much better without the cyan line, but of course we don't want to compromise the interior, which means just indent your walls. Then, maybe add some gray concrete around, put some candles on it, light them. Now I got some lighting. Because the ceiling is only 1 block thick, and although you could definitely build it 2 blocks, or even just lower the ceiling by one wouldn't even be a bad choice, which I might actually go ahead and do. Still, you want to have some lighting in here, and if you do lower the ceiling, then frog lights would be a good choice surrounded by cyan terracotta. Then on one side, we want to have a ladder, or on all 4 sides if you want. Because on the top, in order to make this a little less flat, we're going to be putting some farms up here. That way you don't have to go to the mainland, so that way you can eat. While the underwater part, which we'll work on eventually, will be storage. Now, sea lanterns on the ceiling. I said frog lights, but of course I completely forgot about sea lanterns. And we now have a nice interior, although it's not decorated yet. If you've gotten this far and considering the complex shapes, I assume that you can decorate your own interior. Just put whatever you need and we'll have storage somewhere else. On the ceiling of the outside area, we want to make little farms. Make it a little square, and in the center of it, so 4 blocks from either side, count outwards like this, and we'll be able to have ourselves some nice farms. And the thing is, although it's not nearly as nutritious as meat, still, it's a lot easier to get normal crops up here than it is to get animals, especially considering wool requires grass growing, which requires silk touch or lucky enderman. Otherwise, just plant these down, one for each crop, and you'll be doing good. Don't forget some lanterns too to make sure they grow at night. Now, we got some ladders going up and into the farms, which means sustainable living over here. We got the interior, just everything you'd need, along with some other amenities. Typical things, to-do lists, banners, tables to sit at, all the normal things. Down here, we got some brewing stands lined up. Why down here instead of in here? Simple. There's already water here. Saves a lot of time. Now below the water, if you have a conduit, otherwise just, have barrel flooring in there, we can place down some chests, and note that they can be waterlogged. Although quite a few blocks still can't be waterlogged, hence why we don't have nether portals or enchanting tables down here. Still, you want to make some pillars going down, and then connect them up and put chests in between them. Of course, gray concrete, cyan terracotta if needed, with chests. For our underwater storage, I've gone with a little bit of a unique design, where instead of connecting the outer pillars, which I just placed, which you should too, I've connected the inner pillars and made a chamber full of barrels. Although, chests are typically better, still, for one, it saves me time, I'm not going to be actually using this in survival, and two, Barrels are less laggy because they're full blocks. If you're having trouble with lag, then avoid chests and place down barrels. Either way, it does look prettier than if it were just chests. But still, with that part done, this means the build is done. And just a little set to nighttime. Wrong macro. I don't have a macro for that yet, that's kinda embarrassing. Still, we can see this is looking pretty nice. Imagine just sailing in from whatever mine you have deep in the ground and heading home to this. It's certainly better than just another house. Over there, you could have a dirt house or wherever you live in, or you could have a nice ocean house where your only threat is phantoms and the occasional drowned, especially trident drowned. But either way, I recommend this build if you happen to have a lot of quartz from mining, or you just want a break from the mainland. Just for one final tour of this place, we can see it starts off at the bottom, just some pillars and the conduit, and then we have storage down here, making it nice, clean, and efficient. Then we can sail through this, so that way you don't have to do the awkward sailing around a structure thing in the water, and then head up the stairs, and now you're home. With proper lighting, nothing can get you here, and you can decorate it to your heart's content. Then on top, we can grow some plants, so that way we don't have to head to mainland for food. You can just craft bread, you can do whatever. You might even want to tag a couple villagers along and keep them inside this area. And now, you have another way to have sustainable living. With a large enough base, or several of them in close proximity connected with bridges, you could easily make an entire empire or even a mega base on the oceans, which I'd highly recommend if you were looking for a unique survival experience. And with that, it's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed this video, remember, please like and subscribe, it really helps me out. Regardless, enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy your new home, Gearsaw out.